wanted to briefly talk to our friends and viewers that watch us every day. On Sunday evening, that there was going to be one news feed, that we were going to stay as a network in breaking news mode throughout all day yesterday. That did not happen. We don't know why that didn't happen. Team was not given a good answer as to why that didn't happen, but it didn't happen. Next time we're told there's going to be a news feed replacing us, we will be in our chairs.
We'll be sitting here.
Yeah, and the news feed will be us, or they can get somebody else to host the show.
Verbal or life.
Morning Joe was taken down after Trump's attempted assassination. But today, Tuesday, July 16, they were put back. Let's see what they got to say. Let's take a look.
President Biden's wide-ranging interview with NBC's Lester Holt. We'll have more of the big moments from that sit-down, including the phrase the president admits was a mistake to use. Plus, from never Trumper to running mate, we'll go through J.D. Vance's evolution on Donald Trump that landed him on the 2024 Republican ticket. Meanwhile, the former president picked up another legal victory with a judge he appointed while he was in the White House, tossing out his classified documents case in Florida. We'll have expert legal analysis on that ruling and what could be next for the case. Good morning. It is very good to be here, and welcome to Morning Joe. It's Tuesday, July 16th. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have the host of Way Too Early, White House bureau chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, the president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nations, Reverend Al Sharpton is with us as well. All right, 2 days after an assassination attempt during a rally in Pennsylvania, former President Trump made his first appearance at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee last night. Trump's right ear was visibly bandaged as he entered the convention hall. The crowd was cheering as the former president walked out during a live rendition of Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA. Meanwhile, new details are beginning to emerge in the assassination attempt investigation. According to senior officials, forensic technicians are working 24 hours a day at the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, analyzing the cell phone, laptop, computer, and of shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks. They successfully gained access to his phone earlier in the day, but the search of his electronics have yet to reveal a motive. This, as we're learning, the FBI is now investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism. Authorities found explosives in the car used by the gunman, and more than a dozen guns were found in a search of his family home. 3 officials say the shooter's father called police following the shooting of Trump to say that he was worried that both his son and his AR-15 were missing. The FBI is probing whether some ammunition was bought in the days before the shooting or whether it was delivered to the home.
You know, Willie, I just showing this shot right here. I mean, the overhead view of all of this is still, it doesn't, you know, the more times we see it, the more shocking it is that they actually had a building where there was a straight line between the shooter and the former president. So many things about this is so shocking. And, you know, yeah, it was just directly ahead of it. And then you look at what happened after the shooting, how long it took them to get him covered up and protected. There are, you know, as we get further away from this, there are more and more questions about what the Secret Service was doing, not just, you know, pertaining to protecting the perimeter, but also protecting the former president after the first shots rang out.
Yeah, it's the question we've been asking since the immediate moments afterward. If you look at that layout in the map we just had up there, how just over a football field away from an elevated position could a 20-year-old man climb to the roof and just get a clean, open shot on the former president of the United States? It is a stunning failure. We're going to talk in some detail here about that in just a moment. But this is only by the grace of turning his head. Thank goodness is Donald Trump still alive, for the sake of his own sake, of his family, of the country, that he's still here because he turned his head. That was an open shot. And by the way, we're getting some new information here at NBC News. 4 officials telling us rally goers alerted local police to a suspicious person near a section of the rally prior to the gunshots ringing out. Lines up with a lot of the videos we've been seeing. Local police searched for the man on foot, but were unable to find him until he was spotted on the roof of that nearby building a short time later. During the pursuit, local police told the Secret Service they were looking for a suspicious person. However, it was not clear what time the Secret Service was notified and if it was before Trump took the stage. There are some videos out there. The New York Times has one on their website right now of people while Donald Trump was speaking in the minutes before he was shot, pointing up to that rooftop and saying there's somebody up there with a gun. NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell has more now on the investigation.
Take a look at what happened.
Though stunning and unexpected, authorities had already considered the gunman's rooftop perch a worry. Witnesses say they spotted a threat that day.
We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle.
But the Secret Service had actually identified the building near the Trump rally as a potential vulnerability in the days before the event, according to two sources familiar with the agency's operations. But officials say no officers had been posted there. A key question is why. At the White House, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said he expects within days to choose the head of an independent review from outside the administration.
I am committed to going externally of the department and externally of the government so that no question of its independence can be raised.
Secret Service officials say they had designated that local law enforcement would secure that building.
Any type of missteps that were made or miscommunication that was made, it has to be addressed.
A major shift affecting independent candidate Robert Kennedy, who has been repeatedly denied government security.
The president has directed me to work with the Secret Service to provide protection to Robert Kennedy Jr.
Kelly O'Donnell reporting there. Let's bring in NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, NBC News law enforcement analyst Evie Poumpouras. She has experience serving in the Secret Service's Presidential Protective Division, and former U.S. attorney and MSNBC contributor Barbara McQuaid. Good morning to you all. Tom and Evie, you and I were on the air together Sunday morning in the hours after this took place. Tom, I'll start with you. A question that doesn't feel like it has a lot more answers than it did 48 hours ago, which is, what more do we know about the shooter and a potential motive?
Last time I saw you, I was hopeful that between the cell phone that they were able to recover, that they would be able to get into that. It is our lives. It doesn't tell a lie. You know, your web search history is your web search history. Your apps are your apps, and your messages are your messages. And I was hopeful that perhaps off of that, they would be able to determine not just the how. I think that's becoming into more focus. You laid out some of the reasons, the purchases of ammo. Last night we reported that a Home Depot receipt was found on him, a purchase of a ladder. They're trying to determine whether that ladder that was purchased leading up to this shooting was the one that he used to get on the roof. So those type of details are coming through and are becoming more clear. But the why, and I know, and I get it because I get the vitriol online, somebody shot at Donald Trump. What other reason could it be than some sort of a political reason? That's what people are saying. And I think it's important to remember, first off, the last presidential shooting we had, John Hinckley Jr. did it to impress a Hollywood actress. We've seen a number of incidents happen over the years where people thought the motive was clear, and it turned out to be a complete 180 based on the evidence, and that's where the FBI needs to go with it. Then we found out yesterday that they had a preliminary review of the cell phone. The investigation is still ongoing, obviously, and there was really nothing on that led them to the why. And I think that's a real challenge. And going forward here in this investigation, they're talking to the family. Every indication so far is that the family has been cooperative, but they're kind of running out of leads at this point. And so I think they're either hoping that somebody comes forward or that they find some other piece of evidence or a needle within needles in a haystack to try to figure out why this happened. I will caution people that it is possible that we might never know why this individual got on the roof that day. And I would also caution people think, well, it's anti-Donald Trump because this person doesn't like them, because their views are on the other side of the political spectrum. It is possible that Donald Trump, and there's a bit of a theory in law enforcement, is it possible that Donald Trump was not conservative enough for this individual? It runs the gamut. And I think it's important in this situation. This is the way that we approach our reporting. Everything's on the table. Let's figure out what authorities have. Let's do our own work, talk to our own people. You saw some of that in Kelly's piece right there. And then from that point, we can start to piece together why this happened.
So, Joe, as we've been reporting the last couple of days, the shooter here, a registered Republican, but also someone who gave $15 when he was 17 years old to a progressive group that gets voter turnout for Democrats. So everyone's sort of able to ascribe their priors and their own theories to that, using those two truths.
I just, yeah. I just seen the video.
It's hard to
It's hard.
I keep getting shocked by it.
It's shocking. We may not know the why for some time, but Tom, the question I have is how? How did the Secret Service allow someone to have a straight line of sight to a former president who may be the next president, that an AR-15 could reach when the Secret Service and law enforcement obviously knows? An AR-15, as we've reported time and time again through the years, is the weapon of choice of disturbed young men, and it's within range there. Why weren't there sharpshooters on top of that building? Why were people yelling for almost 90 seconds? There's a shooter on top of the building. What the hell was going on there? Here's where they're yelling. There's a shooter up there. And 90 seconds. And Tom, I want to show you another video. And, you know, I would love to hear from you even too on this. Look how long. Look how long Donald Trump is exposed. What are these Secret Service people doing? Look how long he is exposed to a second, third, fourth shooter. Show that video again. A second, third, fourth shooter. I mean, the thing is, the Secret Service has always been trained. When you hear a shot, when you have a threat, get on top of the president, get on the top of the person that you were protecting, and stay there. Here, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Completely exposed.
8, 9. 9 seconds, I'm counting right there, Tom, before the edit. Who trained these people? How could anybody in a leadership position in the Secret Service still have a job this morning?
Well, I think there's probably a reason why they still have a job, is that they have a job to do with respect to the RNC. I completely understand your point. I think looking last night at the video that we saw of Trump moving through the crowd at the RNC, it appeared to me to be a very different approach. The amount of Secret Service agents that were between Trump and the crowd at the RNC, there was no point where there appeared to be any sort of extended gap between kind of human to human and as far as the agents, you know, essentially elbow to elbow, and Donald Trump as he's moving to the position that he ultimately took. And this is inside a building where there is no outside exposure, where everybody had to go through a magnetometer that's a controlled space. So I think that kind of underscores obviously a change. With respect to all of your questions, they're all the exact questions that we have, Joe. You know, we hear so often about the ability of the Secret Service to jump in, to move somebody out of the scene, to get them in the car and get them on the way. I think there's a lot of questions as far as the timing of that. Back to the original component of it.
And Tom, I'm so glad you talked about the car, because not only did they give a second, third, fourth shooter that could very well have been there 9 seconds while he was up on the stage, where his head was actually higher than all of theirs. But then he did something that the Secret Service, that well-trained Secret Service members never do. They let him stand up and wave to the crowd from the car. Now, of course, every politician is going to want to do that, to say, I'm okay, I'm all right. But I always remember after 9/11, George W. Bush ordering the Secret Service to fly him back to Washington, D.C. And finally, Secret Service members saying, I'm sorry, Mr. President, this isn't your plane. This is our plane. Our job is to protect you first. We saw the same thing on January 6th when President Trump wanted to go up to the Capitol. The Secret Service said no. But here we have people around him that are exposing him for 9 seconds. And then he gets to the car and they let him stand up once again and expose his head, which again is what a politician would do. He stands up and waves back to the crowd there.
You could see his head the whole way.
But I guess I should just ask you this. Have you ever seen that before? Have you ever seen a group of Secret Service people so fail the person they were supposed to protect?
Well, I think one of the natural answer to that is we've so rarely seen this. And so the question might be, is the Secret Service being adequately trained? So if you're a police officer, you're dealing with calls every single day. If you're an
But
FBI
Tom,
agent,
isn't this what they train for their entire life? If you're going to protect the president of the United
there's
States,
a difference.
Isn't
There's a
this
difference
what they're
between
trained to do their entire life?
Sure. I mean, look, there's a difference between when you're doing it in a training exercise and there's a difference when it's real life. And so I think there's going to be a lot of questions about whether or not the Secret Service is in a position. I know there are people inside the tactical community that believe should people be rotated in and out of the Secret Service, people that deal with tactical situations more often. And so should that be something where you're not just in the Secret Service, but you're getting more real world type of experience? I think of in New York City, if this incident happened in New York City, you would not only have, I would posit that this incident would not happen in New York City, but of course the resources available in Butler County, Pennsylvania are different than the NYPD's. But the people that would be doing this with the Secret Service from the NYPD are kicking in doors every single day on crimes. They're in high-risk situations all the time. And so is this a question where the Secret Service, the people that are doing this type of work, do they need to be cycled in and out of other different types of environments so there's more real-world training? I mean, the last time they actually, real-world experience, the last time they really had to deal with this was the Reagan shooting. Now, I know that people in the Secret Service are going to say, look, you have no idea the type of training that we do. We go through all these type of scenarios. We drill on it all the time, and I have no doubt about it. I think to go back to some of the original videos that you were showing there, a little bit more of my expertise and a little bit more of my reporting with respect to what happened on the roof. It is our reporting from 4 officials, and my colleagues Jonathan Dienst and Julia Ainsley, that, in fact, they were aware of this person. He was acting suspiciously around the magnetometers. He was acting suspiciously around the crowd. The crowd picked him out. There was a communication back to the command post. What happened there? The Secret Service has its own radio system, its own radio frequencies. It's encrypted. There's all sorts of good reasons for that. But what was the communication between local law enforcement and the Secret Service? And was the threat acted upon quickly enough? Were there also police assets that were there that they thought maybe this individual was part of the police? Or should there have been a much stronger uniformed police presence? And was it upon the Secret Service to say, hey, this area is a vulnerability. We don't have the agents to cover it. That's not necessarily our job. But we want a uniformed officer that can see another uniformed officer at every single time, and nobody gets on that property and nobody gets on that roof. Again, all questions that we're asking, all questions that'll need to be answered.
It's hard to look at.
But when you do look at that map, as you pointed out at the beginning of the program, it does raise serious questions, and I think that's the reason why the Secret Service is under the microscope.
Okay, so Evie, you served as a Secret Service agent for 12 years. You've been on the inside. You protected President Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama. You've worked for several presidents. Let's take it in 2 parts, which is before the shooting, how this guy got on the roof. I know that was technically outside the perimeter, but as we talked about the other morning, there are only about 3 or 4 buildings there. You might want to just clear all of those buildings. That's number one. And then number 2, the response to it. We've seen videos since then where a balloon pops, where someone says there might be a gun and a president is rushed off the stage. So you can take that first and then work backward from there, however you want to do it. But there are 2 pieces that are being questioned pretty seriously this morning.
Okay. Actually, there's 3. I want to talk about the investigative element and then, you know, their tactical training.
Sure.
So we'll touch on that. I think let's start first with the before. He's seen, he's spotted, he appears suspicious, right? This is where communication comes in. To your point, as far as having manpower where you spread people around to verbally pass the message, that you won't be able to do. That's going to take massive manpower, but that's where, honestly, your radio comes in. Every Secret Service is notorious for the what? Speaking into your mic piece. So every site that you do, you have a security room, a command post, and you put the agent there, Secret Service, and then you also have liaisons. All the other law enforcement entities, they have their own representative in there. So let's assume we're the security room here, the command post here. I'm Secret Service, you're state police, your local police department, where it's the point where I look to you, hey, Tom, tell your guys, blah, 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 blah. Hey, Rev, tell your guys this and this and this. You're passing the information. That's the whole point, so that each representative of every agency is there, so you can do this real quick. Because I have my own radio frequency that I'm using, you have your own comms, you have your own comms. We're not all on the same radio. So that's going to be a question. Was there communication made? So if local law enforcement spotted this person, civilians are saying, hey, police officer so-and-so, did you see this man? That law enforcement person should have gotten on his radio. Hey, team, I'm seeing this. We're reporting this.
And the indication from our reporting is that that communication did take place.
So they pass that to the U.S. Secret Service. So then the U.S. Secret Service is passing it to their team. Now, I will say this. When you're at a site, you do consistently hear suspicious person.
Yes.
I just want to put that out there. What does that mean? What is suspicious? Now, suspicious person with a big backpack that looks like it can carry an AR-15, very different conversation on the radio. So what was put out there? Because you're not going to shut down a whole site because you hear suspicious person in a site of thousands of people. So we move next to the next part, which is he spotted on the rooftop. What's going on there? We don't know at what point. It's speculation. Did he get up there before, post up, hold? Did he get up there afterward, after Trump was on stage, and what happened there? Now, you do have your CS element. That's counter sniper response. From my understanding, there were 2 teams. If it's 2 teams, it's two-man teams. So where were they posted? Typically, they'll spread out. And what they're doing is they're always canvassing the area. Now, did the CS team spot the shooter on the rooftop? There's speculation coming in that they did see him, but maybe, and it's possible, they did not engage immediately. To engage a threat on a rooftop like that, you have to first make sure it's a threat. Just because it's a man on a roof, it doesn't mean you engage. So could they see him? Could they see his weapon? I've done, it's called CS response, where you're actually tied to the snipers. The snipers are up on the roof or wherever they are, and they will tell you, hey, Pompuris, because that's what they would call me on the radio, we see, go to grid, whatever. We have these maps we work off, and we separate the area and these zones. Go to zone 2, whatever. Third floor, here, there. We see somebody at the window. We're not able to understand what it is. Go. And then that team or that element, I would physically go and find out what's going on. So you would do that if you could not see a weapon. You can't engage someone who's not a threat. Maybe it's a spectator who decided to go up on the rooftop and wants to watch. You can't shoot him. Now, if they had seen the weapon, now the question comes in, again, all speculation. Did CS response get confused, perhaps, with local law enforcement? Often at these events, because of manpower issues, you will bring a local CS team. So I will say, police officer, the police department, do you have your own counter sniper teams? And they may say, yes, we have. We're going to give you ours and can use ours in conjunction with yours. That, to my understanding, hasn't been verified yet, whether local CS response was present or not. If they were, you should know where they are positioned. Everything is detailed. I mean, the amount of paperwork that you do in the U.S. Secret Service, maps, diagrams, layouts, I mean, it's done to the nth degree. So everybody knows, hey, local people, local police departments, state police, they're here, they're here, they're here. We are here, 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 so that everybody knows where everybody is. Now, could there have been a bit of a confusion where our CS team, excuse me, U.S. Secret Service CS team says, hey, we see someone on the roof. Could that be local? And was there confusion there where they maybe weren't sure?
Can I jump in for 1 second, Evie? Before we even get to all that, I think the question a lot of people watching this still have this morning is, why wasn't that building secured? I know technically, again, it was outside the perimeter, but it's 130 yards away. I mean, you would think on a farm where there's only a handful of buildings, we're not talking about Midtown Manhattan, you would lock down all those buildings, especially when there's a clear shot to the stage.
100% right. That should be secured. But I will tell you, because U.S. Secret Service resources are so finite, I mean, they fly agents. I'm in New York. I started a New York agent. I would be flown to Waco, to all over the country to fill in spots. It's costly. If I were doing that site, common practice, I would say, police department so-and-so, secure that building. It is on you. Now, you speak to them and you convey what secure means. Being a local police officer sometimes is vastly different from doing security. But I'm just telling you, you would designate it to them. Now, they, understanding what they need to do, and there might be speculation. Did they understand, not understand? I will tell you, secure building means secure building. Yeah. So did they put the manpower there? Why didn't they put somebody on the rooftop? Did somebody But, you know, it's a hot, sunny day. I would hate to presume that, hey, they didn't want to put somebody on the rooftop because it's a hot, sunny day and they don't want to be overly exposed to the elements.
But they had them on another rooftop so that, you know, they could do it.
Local PD. Local, not CS. CS response is used to being on those rooftops. They know what to do. So if I designate a local police department to secure it, I should be able to trust to some degree did they secure it. Now, as a side agent, could you have gone, and again, I don't know what the team on the ground was because I've done outer perimeter. And when you do these assignments, your feet hurt because I literally go from one point to another to check, is this person where they need to be? Is this person where they need to be? So also you're going to have that element, secrets. At the end of the day, it is on Secret Service. Did you do your due diligence and make sure everybody was where they were supposed to be?
So we want to get you on the aftermath we're looking at here in just a moment. But Joe, go ahead. There's just no satisfactory answer for why that building wasn't secured.
Look at this. Look. 9 seconds. 9 seconds. He's exposed to the crowd. 9 seconds. Still exposed. You're going to put your hand over his head? Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Get on top of him. Again, like they have done. Look at that.
That's nuts.
Jonathan Lemire. I'm hearing about resources, finite resources. I'm hearing that RFK Jr., his last name, Kennedy, doesn't have Secret Service. We have been, before this shooting, a nation on edge. Political rhetoric more violent than any time since the 1960s. This cannot be a question of manpower. This cannot be a question of, look, what are they doing? Again, let me say, that is what a politician is going to do. That is natural instinct to say, I'm all right. I understand why the president did that. I do not understand why the Secret Service around him allowed him to do that. And with a nation on edge, with so much at stake, with the high level of threats out there against both candidates, the consequences of this for this nation, existential. How are we depending on Butler County police officers to protect a presidential candidate and protect America? Because that's what you're doing. You're protecting America. And there are so many things here. The further we get out from the shooting, the questions become all the more disturbing. There is no nice way to put it. Those guys right there. You see those guys right there? Those guys stopped an untold amount of violence right there. You're looking for heroes. There aren't a lot there. Those guys were the heroes that stopped the killing of a president, that stopped political violence, the likes of which we haven't seen in a really long time. And there is just simply, and again, Jonathan, there are no good answers. They need to come up with their best answer. It is still going to be inadequate. It's still going to be terrible. The fact that there weren't snipers all on top of that building, Secret Service people or other people protecting Donald Trump, is just, again, this is just beyond shocking, beyond irresponsible. And everybody involved in the planning of this should lose their job.
I mean, to your point, we've had moments of political violence in recent years. January 6th, the assault on Paul Pelosi, the attempted kidnapping plot of Governor Whitmer, and now, of course, this. And the mind reels what would happen if that Donald Trump had not moved his head an inch or so in the moments before that shot was fired. There's certainly going to be, as we heard yesterday from the Homeland Security Secretary and others, that there will be a thorough investigation into the Secret Service response to this, certainly an investigation into what happened that day. We still don't know a lot about the shooter's motives. And you're right. I mean, any politician, particularly one who has a showman's instincts like Donald Trump, would want to reassure the crowd that he or she is okay, to pump his fist and to yell fight. That doesn't excuse, though, doesn't explain how he was allowed to do so. There was radio, you can hear it on the audio, someone saying shooter down. Okay, but at that moment, there's no way to know there was only one shooter. It still remains, it's sort of impossible to explain why Trump was allowed to gesture like that and to have such a clear shot. Also, speculation that he was then put into the waiting vehicle, exposed to the crowd. He wasn't hidden as well as he could have been. Barbara McQuade, you as a former U.S. attorney, have a lot of crime scenes. There are a lot of questions that you still, I'm sure, have about what transpired on Saturday. Talk to us about those and what you think the status of the investigation is now.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the FBI needs to look into not only is the motive, but whether there are any other participants in the planning of this. Did this shooter have anyone he was talking with? Did anyone else provide him with access? Did anyone else know what was happening? That's incredibly important because they want to understand whether he acted alone. And if there is a cold paper trail, so to speak, on his phone, that can be very challenging. This case reminds me a little bit, you may remember there's a mass shooting in San Bernardino, and the FBI had trouble getting into the shooter's phone, and they desperately wanted to get into that phone. And I know there are a lot of people who said, well, the event's over. People have been killed. That's it. But what's so critically important is finding out whether there are others who are part of a network, with the ability to communicate with people anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world. Is this an ongoing threat because others are involved in the scene? So I think that's something to look for. I also think in terms of the response of the Secret Service, I share the outrage that the roof left insecure, the response after the shooting. And I think one serious question that needs to be asked is whether the Secret Service is adequately resourced. One of the challenges that all law enforcement executives have is the resources and how to spread them. Secret Service is spread incredibly thin during a presidential campaign. People are sent all over the country, and people who have not worked together before are suddenly thrust together in various communities. And so relying on local police in Butler County, who I'm sure are doing the best they can under the circumstances, but really could benefit from the professionally trained Secret Service who does this every day. And so I think Congress needs to look at how they're funding Secret Service.
Verbal or Reich.
I've been watching Donald Trump videos all freaking day, and they made me cry. You know, the fact that Trump was brave enough to just say, wait, and then talk to the people, that's on another level of bravery. Like, that's shit you talk about, but you don't see happening. So just him saying, telling the Secret Service agents, they always say that whenever there's a problem, Secret Service agents don't let the person talk, or that's it. They don't get a say. It's whatever the Secret Service say. And for the first time, Donald Trump was the exception. My name is Noel, and I'm battling MS. This is my way of battling MS, right? Coming online and talking into a microphone, into a camera. Because if you don't know, when you have MS, you start to lose functions, all right? Functions of talking, moving your hands, moving your feet, walking, thinking straight. So my solution is do as much as possible. Do as much talking as possible. I could barely walk. I used to love going to restaurants, but now the only way I can go to a restaurant is in a wheelchair. I don't have the strength to go from the car to sitting down in a restaurant. It's just not humanly possible. I do walk around as much as possible around my house. I bought a house and I get to climb upstairs and downstairs and walk around the house. And it's extremely difficult. That's my daily challenge. Can I get downstairs to the basement? Because I have no elevator. I gotta walk. So to you out there, if you're sick or disabled, just push. Keep pushing. Don't give up. Okay? So me talking and moving my hands and doing as much as possible It's my solution to this problem. And I love people that are brave enough to just push forward. And just you doing your best, it's an example of how to make things better. So Donald Trump just makes me cry. When he was out there, came this close to dying and not giving up. He just came off as a strong man, and that's how you behave when things are chaotic, like a pandemic or pandemonium is occurring. So bullets flying, it's a reason for you to be shocked and go through PTSD and not move. But this man kept moving. So with that said, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep walking and talking. Try to present a better, what's it called? Try to create a better experience for you to watch this video. All right. And try to create my best. It's not easy, but life is not easy. So the only thing you can do, we can do is just push forward. Hopefully this reaches your ears and you jot down your opinion. Give this video a like. Keep motivated, continue to make more videos, and let's see how far we get. Because I'm going to do as much talking. I'm 45. I used to work as a school teacher, and now the best I can do is just get up and walk and talk and create these streams. With that said, shout out to anybody battling anything. All problems are problems, and that's your fight, that's your battle. On the good thing, I made it out of New York. Making it out of New York is amazing. So New York is like a pit that the goal is to get out of there. It is a real pit that there's a lot of people that are trapped with that mentality and that workaholic mentality, just living in a tunnel, living in a cave. All right, I'm going to end the stream here and I'm going to go have a seat over there and take a look at this recording.
Verbal or life.